Welcome, it's Captain Matt with Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon, author of the book Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon, available at Amazon, anywhere books are sold. And today we're talking about do not buy a boat. Now, it might be kind of weird for a guy that wrote a book for people looking to buy a boat that he's saying don't buy a boat. So let me tell you why I'm putting this video together, to share with you the reasons why boat ownership may not be right for you, may not be the right option for you. Like I said, I'm the author of this book. My family's been a boater, heck, since I was 5 years old. My kids are boaters, my in-laws, everybody in my family, extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles are boaters as well. So the number one reason why boat ownership may not be right for you comes down to money. Now, there's a lot of people in the industry that promote how cheap boating is. Yes, absolutely. You can get involved in boating for a minimal investment, but you do have to have extra funds. And I'll talk to you about several of the reasons where they might come up that other people just aren't telling you about. So number one is new boats. If you're looking at a brand new boat, realize that there's going to be something that comes up on that boat, even with the warranty, that happens that's unexpected. You're going to damage it somehow operating it. You're going to ding a prop. You're going to damage it when you're pulling into the dock because you're brand new to it. You're going to do something that you didn't realize. That's number one. Number two is new boats are not built the same way cars are. So you're going to have little ticky-tacky issues. The better your dealer, the more likely they're going to find those. But unfortunately, boats are very much handmade, and the quality control, even at the premium level, and the bigger, more complicated the boat gets, the more likely you have some issues. So if that type of thing is going to drive you insane, one, make sure that you work with an absolute outstanding, stellar dealer that's going to address all those issues before you take it. If it's something that is going to drive you crazy, hey, maybe boat ownership is not right for you. Now, one way to save money is to look used, to go with the pre-owned boat. Now, this is a great idea. In my opinion, as a first-time boat buyer, going used is probably a really smart idea. Like I said, you're going to ding it. You're going to do something dumb that's going to cost some extra money. You're going to bang it around when you're learning how to trailer. So having a used boat, it's going to be easier on your wallet to fix it. Or you can just be like, hey, it's got a few nicks and dings on it already. I'm going to be okay with it. Now, the thing that comes on the money side on a used boat is you got to make sure that you buy the right one. You can't buy somebody else's headache, somebody else's problem. Go look. We've got over 600 videos on the channel. We've got our free Boat Buyer's Toolkit that you can get to help you avoid those issues on new and used, but especially on used. So be very patient. Make sure that you're buying the right boat that's going to be very reliable and not be a money pit. Now, another thing on new or used is you're going to have maintenance. So it's not just the price of the boat. You've got maintenance that you've got to do on it. The more complicated the systems, the more expensive it's going to be. I usually say $400 to $600 per engine per boat. If you've got a stern drive, it might be a little bit more. If you got an outboard, it might be on the lower side. But you're also going to have, the older the boat is, the more general maintenance is going to cost, because on a boat you do 100-hour service, usually a 300-hour service, 500-hour service, 600-hour service, 700-hour service. And as you get to bigger service intervals, higher hour service intervals, you have to do more things because things wear out over time. And as you hit that 300, 500 and up mark, there's going to be additional maintenance items that you're going to want to do other than just gear lube, oil change, impeller change. You're going to want to do extra, or you're going to have to do extra stuff. You're also, the older the boat is, the more likely things are just to break, right? Over time, the use, and they just have to be replaced. Bilge pumps, blower motors, the list goes on and on and on. And with the boat, there's almost always something that you have to deal with. So if you don't have that extra cash reserve to spend an extra couple $100, $1,000, $2,000, you're going to get in a situation where you just don't use the boat, and that's going to lead to more issues. We'll talk about that. The next thing that can be very expensive, and not only expensive, but it can be difficult to find, and that's storage space. So if you want to go into a dry stack storage like this, where they put it in and out with a forklift on bigger bodies of water, if they've got a marina with wet slips, or you've got to pay to store it in a storage facility, because you usually can't just put it in your driveway anymore if you live in an HOA. One, it can be wait lists. I mean, on the West Coast, the wait lists are like decades. On the East Coast, almost every marina, I would say probably 80% of marinas have a wait list year to year. Some have been on wait lists for a long time. So don't just think, oh, I can go get that after I buy the boat. You want to do that beforehand, and you've got to figure that into your monthly budget or your yearly budget for boating. We mentioned the Boat Buyers Toolkit. If you're looking to shop, you can get this for free at boatersecretweapon.com/toolkit. But there's additional things. You've got fuel, depending on how you use your boat, how much you use your boat, what you do with it when you are using it. That could be a couple $100, or it could be several $1,000s. Boat insurance, again, could be $500-600 a year, could be $5,000-6,000 a year, depending on if you're in a hurricane area, if you leave the boat in the water, how big, how expensive the boat is. And then you've got your gear. There's always gear that you're going to want for your boat, and that starts to add up. And if you don't have the money set aside, hey, I know I have these additional expenses. Well, what happens is you don't use your boat as much. Or even worse, you put too much money into the boat and you feel like you have to be on it all the time, every weekend, and now it's just the enjoyment is gone from it. The other thing you'll want to have is an emergency fund. We talked about that as you're new to boating, you're going to do things like you're going to run into a dock. You're going to gouge your boat up when you're trying to put it on the trailer. You're going to run into a run aground or hit a rock or a stump because you just don't know what you don't know. We've got programs to help you with that, but things are going to break down. Things are gonna break that you're gonna have to repair. New tires for the trailer, new bunks for the trailer, a new canvas cover that needs to be replaced. All of that stuff. So having at least 1,000, if not more, available for those emergencies. So when something happens, the worst thing that you can do is not use the boat. And when you don't use the boat, those things that have broken down, that have caused problems, become bigger and bigger and bigger issues. So the longer that boat sits, the more likely you are to lose all of your investment in that boat, or that $1,000 repair now becomes a $3,000 repair. If you let it sit any longer, now it becomes a $5,000 repair because other stuff starts malfunctioning because of that and because of the lack of use. So be very aware of that. Another reason why boating may not be for you is there's cleaning involved. There's work that goes along with the boat. We'll talk about different options with it, but if it's fiberglass, you've got to buff and wax that thing to keep it in good condition. Otherwise, the value is going to drop. You got to scrub it and clean it. If you're out fishing, you got to get the fish guts off. You got to get the salt off. You got to keep the gel coat protected. Same thing with aluminum. If you have an aluminum boat or a pontoon, you got to keep it in good, clean repair. You got to wipe down the seats. Maybe you even have to do a little bit of mechanical work. Even if it's the newest boat, there are times when little things happen out of the water that if you have zero mechanical skills, well, then you got to call Cito or Boat US, which are great options. But if you have a little bit of mechanical skill, you can resolve some issues on your own. You can troubleshoot some things on your own. And you can also cut down to that maintenance expense if you can do some wrenching on your own boat. It comes down to, it can either be your time and effort or money. So if you got extra time and the know-how, hey, the money side we can bring down. If you don't have any know-how, you don't have any time, well, you better have even more money set aside so that your boating lifestyle can be enjoyable. And it's not zero time and all money. It's some time and more money. Or it's not all time and no money. It's a lot of time and still some money, okay? Now, the great thing about it is if you buy the right boat, you're going to love it. But if you buy the wrong boat, the idea, what you have pictured in your mind's eye about the way boating's going to be, is you can miss the mark by buying the wrong boat. So a couple things I want you to think about here. Number one is, if you buy the boat for somebody else, that's only going to be in the picture for one or two trips. So what happens a lot is, on the 4th of July, we're going to have everybody out on the water with us, and we need this big, huge boat. But the reality is 80% of the time, it's only going to be 4 people. Or, hey, my kids are off to college, the boat's going to bring them back, and so we're going to get something that they're going to love. Well, they're only going to be back maybe 20% of the time, and 80% of the time it's going to be you and whoever's around. And if you start buying the boat for the wrong people, it could be a major mistake, and you probably don't want to buy the boat in that case as well. Now, the other thing about being a boat owner is there's a lot of responsibility. Listen, you're new to the whole boating world, you don't know how to drive a boat, it is not like driving a car. I guarantee you, it is not like driving a car. Car, four wheels, on the ground, steers from the front, very predictable. Boat, bobbing in the water, steers from the rear and doesn't turn, it pivots. And when you go in reverse, everything's totally opposite. So if you don't have that knowledge of how to drive a boat, it can be very, one, dangerous, two, expensive, because you're going to ding it up if you don't get the right training. But two, the responsibility is you're responsible for everybody on your boat. When you take the responsibility of buying that boat and operating that boat, you're responsible for everybody's safety on that boat, which means you need to know the rules of the water. You need to know how to operate that boat safely. You need to know how to trailer that boat safely, tow water sports safely. You need to know the etiquette. You need to know the laws. You need to know all of that information. Now, we have a lot of trainings to help you with that, but that it's not just all fun and games and go get hammered and go out on the water. If that's your approach, don't buy a boat. It's got to be responsibility. Yes, the boat's about fun. Yes, the boat's going and you're going to have a great time, but you're responsible to make sure that everybody on that boat comes home safe and has a good time and you don't injure anybody or damage anybody else's boat. So if that responsibility doesn't sit well with you, please don't buy a boat. We'll all be better off for it. Now, like I said, we have all these trainings. We've got a free boater boot camp for new boat owners to show you it's a new world, the boating basics, emergency situations and avoidance, navigation, boating of the rules of the road, how to operate your boat, how to dock it, how to drive it in slow water, our best boat captain programs, all available. The other thing is don't buy a boat expecting to make money. A boat is very much a depreciating asset. It's going to go down in value. Throw out what happened during the pandemic. That was an anomaly. Boats depreciate. It's just the reality of the situation. So don't go into boating thinking you're making a financial investment. Now, if you go into boating knowing that I'm going to invest this money in my family, in relationships, in relaxation, in rejuvenation, in a vacation every weekend on the boat, then you're going to have a great time. But if you go into it with the mentality of I'm gonna make money with this purchase when I go to sell it, or I'm gonna save money doing all these other things, you're likely going to have a terrible experience and you're not going to be glad you bought that boat. And that is not what I want. I want to make sure if you go down the path of boat ownership, you understand all the stuff that comes with it so that you can say that was a great idea. Now, I would love to hear for those of you that have a boat, would you buy a boat again? Why or why not? Just put that down in the comments. Like this video. I would love to hear from you so that we can get some other firsthand experience, something I may have missed. And remember, life truly is better on a boat.